I tried to explain, there's no way for me. He said, don't you care enough to find out?
Children shall be held bond or free according to the condition of the mother.
The older children help the younger children. Number two, we were absolutely not integrated with modern Europeans. Number three, we were way smarter. Number four, we were way more confident and secure. And my conclusion is we need to go back to that. Because the only reason that you have people in these institutions calling themselves teachers when the last thing they're doing is teaching. They get to get in there and get at your babies for a paycheck. These people, some of them have no business having access to the children.
Well, they're telling me the truth in this particular piece of history, but they're not teaching this history in the schools.
No, right.
No.
Right.
Put it together
Yeah.
quick.
So, like, for those who might consider homeschooling their children,
Yeah.
would you suggest this? This would be it, right?
Oh.
One of many places, but
One of many, but there's so much here to get the truth aligned about the immigration of modern Europeans to this American continent. North, South, Central, and the adjoining.
Because one of the things that I have found is that children intuitively and naturally, they love to learn.
All Asiatics of America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright. Because you're not Negro, black color, or Afro-Opinion. Learn from your Ethiopian. Ethiopian. Learn from your forefathers and exit and the divine Greek that you may learn to love instead of hate. Prophet Naba Drew Ali.
Until somebody comes along and discourages them, and now they don't want to learn no more. And it's very easy to do in this system of discouragement that they have set up today that is called a school. It's absolutely foreign, because when you look at our history, we're Moors, right? Are we all Moors here? Y'all know y'all Moors, right?
Boom. That's international and national law. Your condition is your mother, not your father.
Because they intrinsically knew that that's still mama.
Yep.
Like I said, if that wasn't the case, then they wouldn't be putting their pride and joy, the progenitors for their bloodline and their family scions on her breast. Right? To get the genetic, right? Because like I said, all the books you read in about science come from the 1800s that are telling you what these Europeans knew. None of the shit they're dealing with now is new information. No. They went and got the old information. So the old information comes from older information, meaning that in the 1600s, 17 to 1800s, they knew about the genetic exchange that colostrum fluid, breast milk, and all of that was bearing on the child, and the child being reared to a particular point where it has just strength and the genetics, and they're dealing with her, and she got the mitochondria.
The children shall be held bond or free according to the condition of the mother.
They knew that. So them scientists knowing that, giving you all of the falseness afterwards with eugenics, but them scientifically knowing what they knew, then you got to understand, they had to have a relationship with her to allow her to rear the baby, not through raising him like they doing in Park Slope and shit, pushing carriages. No, we're talking breast milk. Okay, we're talking colostrum fluid, formulating his brain, giving the calcium and the nutrients for his bone, creating his whole a structure, his being, his blueprint. She was responsible for that. That's what they trusted her with.
And this is what happened when patriarch came in. It destroyed the nature's law of matriarch, which is based on what your mother, you are what your mother is, not what your father is.
Right.
So this is what that was supportive.
Right.
Those facts.
Absolutely true indeed.
And that still holds today.
Yeah.
Enslaved men, women, and children often worked in a variety of trades. Domestics, craftsmen, stock workers,
Yes.
and local vendors.
All right, come on. We can.
You're gonna write this one.
Africans had more opportunities to
Only by you're gonna write this. Only by fixing a perpetual brand. Remember, we got branded.
What did we get branded with?
Negro, colored, and black people.
You know, because we never was no niggas. That's a word that's used to describe our own wretchedness. And we perpetuate it now because it's dead.
I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying you're dead. That's what Negro and nigger means.
That word's dead. We men and women, we come from the first people on the earth.
We're not Negro colors or black people. We're Native, Aboriginal American.
Instead of just American, they said, no, let's not just call them Americans. They should be labeled. Let them know their place, that they're always going to be Africans.
I looked in every phone book in Africa. I didn't find one goddamn prior. I saw one familiar name, J-Bo Walker. I called that up. They say he's in Arizona.
They're always going to be from that continent. No one calls anyone a continental name. I am not black. I'm dark skinned. Yes, who cares? So when I go in class and I sit down and someone wants to share something and they say, as an African American, it's very prideful for them, I realize, but do not label yourself before you start talking. Police and brutality all around the world, they label you. They tell you that African American. When you go to the news, they say African American. Do they call them white Americans? No, but they call you Black American. Why do they do that? Because you let them label you. Do not let them label you. Next time when you go to a class, when you go somewhere to speak, do not say as an African American. No, say as an American, because you are an American. And that is it. Not a Black American, not a white American, not an Asian one, not a European one, not an African one. Okay? Or South American one, or North American one. Stop labeling yourself. It is just destroying you. And your kids will come up to the same situation.
Children shall be held bond or free according to the condition of the mother.
They're telling you that you do not belong here, but this is your home.
Only by fixing a perpetual brand
Excuse me,
can
sir.
a distinction be made.
One of the most terrible things, well, one of the most difficult things, because it is something which one wants to resist, as he has said, and also to use, is that, in fact, whether I like it or not, I am an American. Now, that is not, I'm not Lyndon Johnson, and I'm not saying that as, I am an American. I don't mean that, no. Alas, I mean something very different.
Excuse me. My fault.
Free Negroes offspring, free Negroes offspring, and the descendants of a who? Englishman.
What?
So they had to brand
hold up.
you.
Would you mind telling me what your father's last name was? My father didn't know his last name. My father got his last name from his grandfather, and his grandfather got it from his grandfather, who got it from the slave master. The real names of our people were destroyed during slavery.
Was there any line, any point in the genealogy of your family when you did have to use the last name? And if so, what was it?
The last name of my forefathers was taken from them when they were brought to America and made slaves. And then the name of the slave master was given, which we refuse. We reject that name today.
You mean you won't even tell me what your father's supposed last name was or gifted last name was?
I never acknowledge it whatsoever.
So they had to brand you the Negro code and blood.
So these are keys that are important to understand when you play suits. Because if you play suit in a fraudulent position, the suit really has no jurisdiction, no power in the jurisdiction, because it's subordinate to one who owns it. It, not you, it.
Only by fixing a perpetual brand can a distinction be made.
Because Negro, Black, and Colored was coined by the European sons in order to distinguish human chattel property from the human family who had national names like every other civilized being.
So they had to brand you the Negro code and blood.
But this one is going to blow your mind.
Tell me how you came to get such a Roman name as that. Tell me how you came to get such a Roman name as that. Tell me how you came to get such a Roman name as that.
Well, as I understand, I'm Cassius Marcellus Clay VI, and my great-great-grandfather was a Kentucky slave, and he was named after some great Kentuckian. Well, Cassius Marcellus Clay is a great name in Kentucky. And really, where he was from or where it was all originated, I couldn't tell you. But since I've reached a little fame in boxing, most people want to know where I'm from and where did I get that name. But really, I haven't really checked on it. So I see that I'm going to have to go look into it.
You'll have to look it up.
See what it's all about now that I'm getting a little interviews.
Why don't you like to be called Clay anymore?
No, Clay was not my name.
So keep these things in mind, because it's very important when it comes to the point of protecting your Moorish birthright. If you're forced to sue, that you be in your proper person, which is also why Drew Ali reminded the Moors before this thing even came, when this thing fell all apart. He says, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality, be yourselves. Of course, you all know, those of you who know law, know that being yourself in law is in propria persona sui juris. All right?
Why don't you like to be called Clay anymore?
No, Clay was not my name.
So when you see that, you know that that's being yourself.
Once we follow, believe, understand the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and come into knowledge of ourselves, then we want to be called after names of our people.
And so this museum provides context for the debates.
Who's that quote?
William Gooch. In this museum, so far I'm finding that it's just like astrology. When you look at the astrology wheel, what you see is based on what you know. Same here. They have sayings that are, sprinkled throughout that are actually facts and recorded. But based on what you know, for instance, here, the one we just did about
the new regional cultures throughout colonial North America.
More like a Negro country than a country settled by.
While all the colonies held enslaved people, the systems of slavery varied.
1737.
In most
Sundry Free Moors.
Sundry Free Moors Act and all the activity going on right now with the Moors and North Carolina.
Yeah.
A few Africans in America.
That's why they justified in Charlotte for rising up. So they right there in the right spot, downtown Charlotte.
The Moors and North Carolina.
Yeah.
A few Africans in America.
All right, so I'm going to welcome Sister Kadira L. Bay, who will introduce our speaker. Thank you so much.
Me and my husband have been together for over 13 years, and I would like to introduce his book. I'm Kadira El Bay, and we have a bookstore. It's called Culture Freedom Books, and this book is the First World Order, and it talks about how we weren't all just slaves.
Look at that. Slavery was not based on perceptions of race.
Some of us were already here. This book has 419 pages, and it's $100. You can get it from the website at draleemlbay.com. But without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my husband, Dr. Aleem El Bay.
The Moors and North Carolina.
Yeah.
A few Africans in America.
Make sure everybody can hear me. Is that I'm good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna get into know your roots, know thyself, and this is gonna go pretty deep, like Tony said. So I'm gonna try to put in and fill in some pieces here of general history, because my major was also history. So I'm gonna give myself.
Limited. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So going back to the
On
history.
large
so
plantations, enslaved people.
So look, check this out too, right? Because
This enabled them to maintain cultural
when they
practices,
was challenging
create new
like Dred Scott and all of that, right?
in large
They
port
like,
cities like Charleston.
well, you know,
Amsterdam,
you can't say, basically, they couldn't
enslaved
tell them
men,
what to do
women, and children
outside of this geographical boundary right here. Just those 13 colonies
craftsmen,
was the only,
One,
and local vendors.
and they,
6, 7, 8,
but,
9, 10,
in bustling
12,
cities,
13,
free and
yeah,
enslaved
but look,
Africans had more
the Europeans really didn't have jurisdiction over that.
No.
But everybody knew, like, you ain't got no, you don't have zero say so
small
outside of that. You know what I mean? Right. You know what I mean?
American Indians.
So they didn't respect them having territorial jurisdiction in other areas.
The Empire Monday, did you say the Empire Monday? It was not separation for the border before. Did you say the Empire Monday? It was not separation for the border before.
Because they didn't have it, and they still don't.
And they bells together.
Yeah.
Where you from, brother?
North America, bro.
North America. I like that.
North America.
That's right.
You feel what I'm saying?
You in the beast.
I don't even subscribe to the colonization of this land no more. You feel what I'm saying? Because they didn't have it, and they still don't.
And they bells together.
Yeah. You said when Nicaea?
Very nice. They was trick their people. Very nice.
Right.
Until the colonization camp changed everything. By law.
Yes. Same thing happened here with the Pilgrims when they came here. Colonization divided us up, make us think we're different people, that, you know, our empires didn't expand across the great Atlantic. You know what I mean? But it's a beautiful thing to know that it did, and to see our brethren in their cultural garb.
And Africans became black, and Africans became black, and Africans became black, and Africans became black.
The word black, it goes back to English. And we're not Englishmen. We're not English women. Though we speak the language. Because it's like this. I could speak Chinese, that would never make me Chinese.
And Africans became black in colonial North America, in colonial North America, in colonial North America.
Wow. Just caught that.
The race-based system of slavery was cemented into law. It was fundamental to the growing colonial economy and would prove instrumental.
Did you just hear what he said?
Founding of the United States.
Africans became black.
I know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know.
It's right in here.
I know. They're talking about endangered European slaves as well. They were both slaves. That's
Yeah, we've seen these pictures.
When Africans arrived in colonial North America, they encountered different environments and varying.
Where did we see the sadness covering?
From rocky coastline.
Where did we see the sadness covering?
From rocky coastline. From rocky coastline. From rocky coastline. From rocky coastline.
Almost when they say I saw this in Nature Knows No Color Line, but I don't think it's in there. It's somewhere on the internet, though.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
They
Can't get this.
cultivated the land, building profitable plantations in the Queen cities. Forced together. While all the colonies held enslaved people, the systems of slavery varied. In most instances, the condition of slavery
Check this out.
is defined.
Maroon Settlement. You want to read that for the people?
Oh, wow. Enslaved Africans in Cuba, like those on other islands and in North America, escaped when possible and formed maroon or runaway societies. Over generations, these communities defend themselves from recent enslavement and developed a distinctive culture. So those were like the ones who didn't convert to
The El Yangas of the world.
Yeah, like our younger for the North American, and that's in the island.
Cujos, many others.
Like you said, I'm Cujo Adwell. I'm one of the grand chiefs of the Moorish movement. With regard to the importance of Moorish history, it's the most neglected history of our people.
Okay, let me ask, before you go any further, who were the Moors?
If we look at it from a historical perspective,
yes,
the Moors are basically any dark-skinned people that had power across the planet. They might have had different names at different times: Cushites, ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, Phoenicians. But the culmination of those people in modern times, their name is Moors.
Okay.
They took that name away and replaced that with Negro, Black, Colored, all the names that are a fiction, which is why today we're combating the fraud of Black history, because Black history is really Moorish history.
Yeah.
Shout out, Sheik.
They're like, we're British.
Free and enslaved Africans have more
Now, sometimes when I see these red flags,
and share.
Yeah.
I assume they're missing the red star. I mean the green star. I don't know.
Well, there's different flags. The continental flag didn't have the green star. Well, it has the green.
They labor.
I don't think there's anywhere in here they would show it. It had the African.
As the new nation continued to wrestle with slavery and freedom, African Americans.
But after the American the British offered enslaved men their freedom in return for service. The Continental Army soon followed. Freedom by any means was the order of the day. So what was who were the British fighting? Is what you need to think about, because they were trying to keep slavery. Dunmore. Who's Dunmore?
The first that we'll talk about is Dunmore's proclamation. James Murray, Earl of Dunmore, was governor of Virginia during 1775, and during that year had been embroiled in a number of conflicts with Virginia colonists. In particular, dealing with the gunpowder that he'd removed from the storehouse early in April. By the time that we get to the fall, the conditions were so bad that Dunmore was forced to evacuate the palace in Williamsburg and take up residency aboard a ship in the Chesapeake Bay. It's going to be from that ship that Dunmore is going to issue his proclamation, which did two things. First and foremost, it's going to declare martial law. But secondly, and most important for our question, is that Dunmore is going to issue an offer of freedom for indentured servants as Negroes, as African Americans were called during those times.
Most of you Negroes. I'm not insulting you, I'm just saying you're dead. That's what Negro and nigger means.
Who belonged to the Virginia Patriots. So here we have a clearly articulated offer for freedom, for independence, if these people who belong to Virginians would pick up arms and come and fight for the British. Now, one of the questions that's important here is, why did Lord Dunmore do this? Was he an abolitionist? Was he seeking to end slavery altogether? The short answer is no. What you need to understand about Dunmore's proclamation is that he issued this as a military strategy in order to disrupt what was happening behind enemy lines, in this case with the Virginia Patriots. So there was no long-term desire on his part to free enslaved African Americans. It should be noted, though, as a result of Dunmore's proclamation, we know that hundreds of thousands of African Americans are going to flock to the British lines, and many of them will be able to find their freedom as a result of this. The next document that I wanted to discuss actually points to some evidence of an African American who took up Dunmore on his proclamation and decided to go and fight for the British.
Troops and local seamen exploded onto the streets of Boston in 1770. At the helm was Crispus Attucks, a 47-year-old sailor and fugitive slave. He became the first casualty in the Boston Massacre, and his act of defiance marked the beginning of the March toward revolution. By April 1775, Massachusetts militiamen clashed with British troops, launching the Revolutionary War.
Before the revolution, many Africans were already experienced seamen on merchant vessels. Due to a shortage of manpower, both the continental and colonial natives signed Africans into service early in the conflict. During the war, they served in a variety of capacities, piloting vessels, building ships, and managing ammunition on board. What were the big question is, why were they already experienced seamen? Because they've been seamen for a long time.
Going back to the
Going back.
more sea rovers on the British, like, you know.
Critical thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, we learned a lot in school about 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and all that stuff. But you know what? There were Africans before Columbus, and we've got Dr. David Imhotep to tell us his history lesson that we need to know. Welcome, Dr. Imhotep. And I should say you have a PhD in ancient African history.
That's correct.
And that's kind of unusual.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. How did you get interested in this area?
It was part of my dissertation led this way, but I could not vary to another subject when my other subject here. So I said, later on, I will write something about that because it's not important in my dissertation at this moment. So that's why I did the book as soon as I finished my dissertation.
Wow. And we should say, and we have a picture of the book too, and it's the first Americans were Africans. And we were talking about Dr. Ivan Van Sertima because I remember back in the 1980s, my dad took me to hear him. He came here to Cincinnati, and his book was They Came Before Columbus, and he talked about you know, how Africans were here. He had a lot of, great research information, and so it was just kind of eye-opening. But we haven't heard a lot about that recently. So tell us how you got involved here.
Well, I'm showing that Africans not only came before Columbus, they came before the Indians.
So you're going even farther back.
I'm going farther back, at least 56,000 years old.
Okay, now we've got a graphic up here about 130,000 years ago.
Yeah, well, they sailed over here. And when I lecture, people say, well, wait a minute, humans weren't sailing, let alone they weren't boating 130,000 years ago. And I beg to differ. Last year, New York Times quoted the BBC, and they wrote an article on how in Crete, they have found a stone industry of stone tools going back to at least 130,000 years. And Crete has been an island in the middle of the Mediterranean for 5 million years. So they had to sail, and it was a continuous civilization, which means they were going back and forth. They knew how to navigate. So if they got to Crete 130,000 years ago, it's easy 70,000 years later that they could make it to the Americas at 56,000 years ago.
Right.
It was already.
Say that again.
How does this be the founding of America when it was already, well, it wasn't called America, but America. But how did they come to find it? You see what I'm saying?
All right, so real quick, you know.
Oh, this is a secession right there on the wall. Okay, real quick. Come over this way.
Kunta Kinte was running his ass off. And Kunta said, I got to be free. They cut off his foot. Kunta was like this. Fuck it. They cut off both his shit. He just.
Yes, African Americans have felt the cold weight of shackles and the stinging lash of the field whip, but we've also dared to run north.
As the colonies moved towards war. Now, everybody knows the colonies was trying to become free from something British. Move towards war and revolt or revolution. The Continental Congress appointed a committee of men to draw up a statement about why independence was necessary. Now think, critical thinking people. If the colonies are trying to be free and the Continental Congress already exists, it's right here.
Now, I want to show you a painting of the Battle of Bunker Hill. Here's the Battle of Bunker Hill. Bunch of white guys, right? Unless you know where to look. right here. That's Peter Salem. He was actually the hero of the battle. It doesn't look like he's a hero there. He looks like he's cowering behind the white guy with a sword. He was the hero of the battle, and he saved scores of American lives that day. Why don't we know this? Look here. African American, helping row the boat across. You know what his name was? Prince Whipple. He fought alongside Washington during the Revolution.
It's right here. It already exists. Continental Congress. So, Morris, when you have that continental flag, that's what it's representing.
So what's the significance of the Continental Congress existing before?
Because many people think that there was no government or no activity or anything of that nature here in the North American continent until the what they call the founding of America. They're only giving their perspective of the story.
Yeah.
And so this is what people believe, but it tells you right there. The colonies moved towards a war and revolution.
This painting of, this is the Marquis de Lafayette.
Without the French Navy and without Lafayette, we wouldn't be a republic.
If you look at this, you just think, oh yeah, and then he made his slave dress up like I don't know what. But that's what you would think, right? This guy is incredibly important. This guy may have won the Revolutionary War. James Armistead was his name. How did he win the Revolutionary War? Double spy. I'm gonna let David tell the story here in a minute, but basically the Brits thought that he was spying for them, but he was spying for General Washington. He'd give the Brits bad intel and reveal the good critical information to General Washington. Did you know this story? Why?
Without the French Navy and without Lafayette, we wouldn't be a republic.
I'm so tired of people saying, well, it was just the white people, white people, white people. No, why are we intentionally leaving others out?
And the Continental Congress appointed. So it already existed. And you can go to the Articles of Association that proves it, that these colonies came to the Continental Congress on September the 5th, 1774 in Philadelphia. So it already existed, the Continental Congress.
Right.
So the only significance is for people to realize that there was government going on already.
Absolutely.
That's all.
The first 26 congressmen up on that hill of color were all Republicans. Do you think they teach that?
Right, I never went to school in this country. That's why I don't
know.
I appreciate.
But they should, right?
But they should, because when you're saying of color, do you mean like melanated people, my skin complexion? Because everybody has a nationality. To be specific, like, you know what I mean?
If I put my hand on the back of his poster,
yeah,
you're going to discover immediately I'm not white.
Hold on, say that again, bro. My fault.
I am not white.
Colonists didn't identify themselves as white. They identified themselves as Englishmen or Christians.
Real talk.
Just called Let's Move.
See?
Absolutely, I totally respect that.
Now, put your hand
on your shirt, by your shirt.
Yes.
I'm not black.
There you go.
I know that. No, I know that. What's those papers right there?
Okay. No. And in the before we move to that, it says here, 6 men, a committee of 6 men to draw up a statement about the independence was necessary. Well, if you read the Articles of Association, that explains why they needed their independence. It's right. It's a 1-page, 1.5-page document. It's on the site, also on Forgotten Scrolls page. So Thomas Jefferson, he took the lead. Now you need to read the letter between Tom and Ben Banneker. You'll see.
Benjamin Banneker was one such figure who did not hesitate to challenge the government to live up to its creed. He was raised as a free person of color in the state of Maryland, where his grandmother taught him to read and write. As a child, he developed an interest in mathematics and mechanics, and soon became accomplished in clockmaking, astronomy, and surveying. In 1791, Banneker assisted Major Andrew Ellicott in surveying the new federal city that would become Washington, D.C.
Egyptian architecture is all over D.C. It's everywhere. It's in Malcolm X Meridian or Meridian Hill Park, whatever you call it. It's in the buildings all around the mall. It's everywhere, you know. So, of course, our history goes way beyond the term of African American. You know, our history is much longer than this museum could possibly capture, probably than anyone could possibly capture. You know,
Like I said before, if we take a step back and say, hold on, our contribution is bigger than this museum. Okay, we built the whole thing. Benjamin Banneker, they laid the math out of this place.
He rose to prominence by publishing an almanac based on his own calculations. Banneker was long aware of Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson's views about blacks. Proud of his African heritage and confident in his abilities, on August 19, 1791, Banneker wrote Jefferson, including a copy of his almanac. He cordially reminded Jefferson that during the Revolution, he, Jefferson himself, called slavery an evil. How could Jefferson now support an institution he had once said he abhorred? Banneker wrote, "This, sir, was the time when you clearly saw into the injustice of a state of slavery, and in which you had just apprehensions of the horror of its condition. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Sir, how pitiable is it to reflect that you should at the same time be found guilty of that most criminal act which you professedly detested in others with respect to yourselves." Jefferson wrote Banneker back, briefly thanked him for his letter, but failed to answer Banneker's questions regarding slavery. Jefferson, like most whites, quickly cast aside the contributions of African Americans in winning independence from England. Jefferson replied, "Sir, I thank you sincerely for your letter. Nobody wishes more than I do to see such proofs you exhibit. Talents equal to the other colors of men, and that the appearance of a one of them is owing merely to the degraded condition of their existence, both in Africa and America. I can add with truth that nobody wishes more ardently to see a good system commenced for raising the condition of both their body and mind to what it ought to be. I am with great esteem, sir, your most obedient, humble servant, Thomas Jefferson." Banneker published the exchange in future editions of the Almanac, thus lending black and white abolitionists with another reference for their anti-slavery arguments.
And the committee revised his work. Jefferson labored to define what freedom was and why separation from rule England. This is proof that they themselves was trying to be separated from the British. Oh, right. On American land, though. Okay. From England was necessary. As a slave owner, tyranny was not an abstract idea. Read the letter from Benjamin Banneker to Jefferson and you'll understand. Because he decided that maybe it's a good idea to enslave the people after they got their freedom.
Indeed. What we working with right here?
Now, right here, this looks like the Declaration of Independence handwritten.
Look at that. Wake up, America. I love you. Now, what would you say is the most important part about the Declaration of Independence?
Freedom.
Freedom
For all.
For all.
Life,
For all.
liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Right.
For all.
That's all this is about.
We're all created equal.
There you go. There you
Amen.
go.
And you're my brother.
All right.
Yeah, draft of the Declaration.
Can you read what's at the top?
Yes, it says, a declaration for, a declaration by.
No. At the top.
Determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold. The king, that's England, they wanted to keep slavery, remember that. But the slaves were the modern Europeans, not us. The king is now exciting those very people to rise in arms amongst us. That's right, because they never wanted them to be free. That's why. draft of the Declaration of Independence, but it does say a declaration of the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled. So if they're asking for freedom and they didn't have it, the General Congress assembled was already assembled.
So what we're looking at right now is hold up, let me get the aberration right. All right, so this paper right here is the handwritten draft.
Oh, it says here, let's look at this.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Jefferson included discussions of slavery in the rough draft of the Declaration of Independence, but the drafting committee cut the subject from the document rather than call attention to the contradiction that slavery existed in a land founded on independence. Now, this is interesting. This is out of the Library of Congress. This is interesting because, again, I take you to the letter from Benjamin Banneker to Thomas Jefferson. That's where he's telling them, hey, man, what are you talking about? You just won freedom yourself from that infamous all men are created equal. You're looking at my brethren to put them back in slavery. So that ties this truth in, all right? That's why he addressed it.
No, just
Let's switch sides.
Yeah, thank you.
So Jefferson wasn't all that great after all, huh?
Jefferson professed to hate slavery, called it an abominable crime, but he held on to his slaves. He freed only 7.
The author of the Declaration of Independence, who wrote that all men are created equal, owned 600 slaves over his lifetime. And in addition to his legitimate children, almost certainly fathered at least 6 other children with his slave, Sally Hemings.
For generations, descendants of Sally Hemings have been telling stories implicating Jefferson as father of her children.
DNA proof of a connection came in 1998.
When in the course of human events.
This is his handwritten draft. Oh, God, this is amazing stuff here.
But as far as the masses are concerned, is that because it is based in divine law, the consequence of violating the Constitution, the retort, the recompense, the revenge is based in nature, not in you. So if they violate the law, you violate the law, constitutional law, it's already set in the atmosphere. So you can play games all you want to. That's what makes the United States really so unique, not what they've been telling you. Because this government was set up on the principle of isonomy. And that is divine law. And the keys to it is set up also in the Declaration of Independence. Nature's God and nature's law. And don't you think it's not?
For depriving of the benefit of trial by jury. Look, if you notice, the interesting thing is, if you notice that they're talking about their reasons, and they say for depriving us of the benefits of trial by jury, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent,
Stood there in front of them people for 2 hours. And they gave me my money back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they was enforcing a federal tax law, but I'm showing you a document where this is coming from Congress and it's stating that the IRS is no part of the federal government. So how y'all automatically taking money from me? And you see my allodial. Do you know what allodial stands for? Or allodial? No, they don't. So I had to educate them for 2 hours. Then I had to hit the hammer on them with the peace treaty. That was it. And followed up with Hillary and Obama, both repeating it, and I got him following along, like reading along as I'm playing it on my phone and I'm showing him.
So you did this in Richmond?
I did this at the resort. I got documentations and everything at the resort. 2 hours. They had to get on the phone and call the people up and to do the high people up. Only one person can, because the AA 222141. Right. Only one person can authorize that because it's not exempt. It's a non-obligated.
For imposing taxes on us without our consent.
So you're not, you're not obligated to it. So they didn't understand it. But when he got on that phone and called up there, it was no problem. Right.
Islam, Noble. Travel well and safe.
Yes, sir. You
man.
too, brother.
These are all the reason they wanted to be free. Well, you know who did that? That was the British, who had them in slavery here.
This is Thomas Jefferson's laptop desk. This is the desk upon which he wrote early drafts of the Declaration of Independence.
The first of those drafts attacked Britain's slave trade, Jefferson writing that King George III has waged cruel war against human nature itself. The Continental Congress took the phrase out. Alongside the rejected passage, the financial reality.
Next to it is his farm book. And here is where he would list the births and deaths of the slaves. He would list the work that they did. So in some ways, it really gives us a full picture of the totality of Jefferson.
But the thing is, in the closeness of the slavery situation is right after they, and really right before they actually got their independence. If you watch the movie, what's it called, of a Negro? Book of Negroes. You'll see in that documentary that while slavery is trying to be given to these modern Europeans here, they decide they're going to become slave masters. So it starts to interweave itself. You know, like you have to know these things in order to catch it.
Yes. The struggles for freedom that took place made our Constitution a real and living document.
It's a beautiful thing to know the law. It really is. And I know that you're outside of law because you're acting outside of constitutional fold of government.
Tested.
The point of this mission is the enforcement of our Constitution.
And shaped and deepened and made more profound its meaning for all people.
During the 1830s, Isaac Franklin and John
Now look, check this out. Look at how big, when they first colonized our land, look at how big Georgia was.
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
How big Virginia.
It's called annexing. Just so I can say, oh, that's not
But that's what I was saying before. Tennessee, what they call in Tennessee, in North Carolina. I mean, because it's all, before the Pilgrims came here, this was all one land. Didn't have these names, it's colonial names. So I would say the decolonization starts mentally with your connection to the land. Like
this particular corporation that we call a country has subjects and citizens that are the least informed persons on this planet. This country has what you call the most staunch
Read our pay every day. Uplifting because we all pay. We enforce the law and we obey. Our fathers from before until today. Reading my Quran and my Torah. Universal laws in more ways. Read 4 chapters, receive it 4 ways. Great divine love rules our first. Before I circle blocks, man, I circle 7 first. You bust the image, but your rhymes hurt. Declare 13, disrespecting us. Love, but it's all in God's plan. Today's mathematics don't judge a man. Unity of life, embodiment of truth. I'm responsible for every deed because I've seen the proof. No, but true. You have to try it out for you. Cause nationality is not a color I can use. Jerry the roof. Standing on my square, even without shoes. On the highest authority, spirit of blue. Marcus Coffee, whirlwind times 2. The world's in the wind when the trumpet blew. Stand up, go into your bathroom. You got a big floor to feeling, cut the light on it, Take a good hard look at yourself. You are the worst government. You know, and it took me a long time to understand that concept. I don't law and master. If I can govern myself, if I can govern my household, that's what I should be doing. Why should I walk out of my door and then leave everything that I know about myself in the house to go out and adopt something that I have no knowledge of? So we need to stop asking that question. I ask myself this question: if not me, then who?
Destined wisdom, my friends, intelligent creatures, guardians of sacred knowledge, all making features. Secrets of the afterlife manifest the present day. Dirty mortal scoundrels lose their heads in a pleasant way. Deceit and deception, negative past thoughts. Keep the awareness on point, spirit messages never off. Inner realization, encounter the higher self. Explain existence, explains my consistence. Without a flow, you never know, so fast most resistant. Divinity, my twin flame, side chick and mistress. Metaphysics, Kabbalistic, Amarat mystic, patriarch, statistic. Make my thoughts sadistic, so indigenous. Call me Americanistic, invoking the ancestors. Saracen cryptic, suns on rotation. Flows eclectic, shatter all illusions. Reveal the realistic, sitting in the dark hole in the light marvelous. Recognize the artifice, skin so carbonous, hair so antenna. I feel them from Vienna, myriad of virtues, lessons, and reptilian henna. Enlightenment seekers won't find it in mainstream. Focus as a laser, stay balanced like a beam. Not even a gymnast. Whenever I flip this, as above, so below, get out when within this. Don't think I'm a slave cause I speak in English. True, I need the water, watch your flames get extinguished. Living in your higher, lower self is relinquished. Reputation of master teachers, call it distinguished.
Peace, Moors. Peace, fam. You are definitely tuned into MHHS Eyes Wide Open Blog Talk for Sons of Allah, March 2023, which is simultaneously being broadcasted on Canaanland Moore's YouTube page. I am Ms. Raheem L. I'm here with my brethren, Cujo L. Peace, Moore.
Peace. Islam, more.
Islam. Man, first and foremost, I know there's a lot to clarify and dig into, but I just want to say I appreciate the intro you already had running on Canaanland Moore's YouTube page, right? Because I let you know as well, man, like I just was watching this yesterday. No, we didn't even talk about it, but I was watching it yesterday. I was like, man, there was some jewels in here. And I can't even from the jump explain how in tune and in sync that was. And I appreciate that, bro, for sure.
Peace, more. It was you know, it was the listening to the little voice, and just with today, the amount of times I heard today, Allah is the best of planners. At this point, you just gotta go for the ride, yo. At this point, you just gotta enjoy the ride. Yeah, you just gotta enjoy the ride at this point. You know.
Yeah. Pardon. Yes, indeed. I just want to say this real quick because I know it's a lot to clarify and get into. But the portion you were playing, like the segments, when it said in the so-called African American Museum, National History of the African American Museum, etc. This is what they call it. When we were there and that part happened where the audio track said
Africans became black in colonial North America. Like, there were so many qualifiers in that, right? Like, colonial North America is where the concept of so-called Africans, or, same as what they eventually called Negro, black, colored, etc., that didn't happen until colonial North America, right? That's how so-called Africans became black. And so I just, when I heard that on the audio track and we were there in the flesh, and that joint just happened to hit like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is divine, right? This is divine because it's not a new discovery for me at that point, but it's a confirmation of what we already know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so that part meant so much, just to know that, like, listen, we're not tripping when we say this. Like, these are historical facts. These are actual facts. This was never our free national name. Like, never. You know what I mean? And it's not a secret. It's just in these certain halls of learning. And, that is what it's about. Getting out there, getting the information, field research, book research. All of these things are also important, and seeing it for yourself, right? Like, and so, yeah, it was a heavy message in that, bro. And, yeah, I just felt the need to highlight, like, that was in tune for sure. And, this was the other part, when that part where the European was saying that he is not white. I don't know exactly who he was, but I know he was some sort of politician, right? He had the whole clean shave, no facial hair, and he was sitting there talking facts for a minute, and I'm not sitting there saying he's right, wrong. I'm just saying he was talking facts, and it's crazy that he even confirmed it, right? The European man was saying that he is not white, he has a nationality. All of these are real life experiences that I definitely am thankful to have had shared, you know what I mean, or having it out there to the point where we can analyze these things. That is my book, that is my digital from the heart diary for y'all. Like, that is a part of it, right? Like, one of them. And so, yeah, bro, like, I really appreciate the run on that.
Well,
but,
another thing too with regard to it.
Yeah.
That's why what you said earlier, what makes that video one of my favorites on Mantis Views is the confirmations. You know what I mean? There's so many confirmations in this thing, and honors to you and the mothers for having the insight to just record some things. You know what I mean? Not a lot of times Moors get caught up in the whole social media wave of recording issues that they have. You know what I mean? Opposed to they see some facts and record that, or they have some conversation with somebody, some random that drop some jewels and record that. So likewise, the honor is mine to be able to be in tune to pick that video just to run as the intro today. It just hit me. Let me just play a Mantis Views today, and might as well play my favorite video off there. So give thanks to you as well.
Right. Indeed. Likewise. Me too. Definitely. That's definitely. And there's more. It's just like, even in different more spirits, it was especially since the pandemic, it wasn't a lot of, we're going to go to this place and show and prove, and let it speak for itself or add on, and but that's what it's about. This is about the information, video, written, whatnot, all types of communication. And I just felt like that there was something special about that. You know what I mean? Because when it said in there what we were saying for years, it's like if we're gonna talk fact checks, right? Like if we're gonna really check facts, we gotta go places, right? Like we gotta go to the museum, see what they're saying, and then if we could check those facts, etc., then yeah, you know, all of these are things and places to see. And I think that that's the part that's been missing. Is it's like the part of showing and proving. There's no actual real world work. It's all digital. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but nonetheless, you know, that's one of my favorites too. And yeah, man. So I feel like forever, you know, like it said in the beginning, in the intro, when Barack, and personally, you know, I don't want to get too far off into my own opinion before we get into this, but if you look at the date that happened, it was on the autumn equinox. Or it was on the autumn equinox, and Barack Obama, quote unquote, was about to leave office the next year or whatnot. Like his term was already up, right? And so, in my opinion, from what this is or what it was, this was like his goodbye, right? In a sense, if you watch what he was saying at the joint, like he closed his terms out on leaving the museum behind. I never voted for nobody, so you know I'm not convincing anybody to vote. But I'm saying when you look at the history, that's kind of like what really happened. They opened it on the equinox. His term was over. It was supposed to be 100 years since they was waiting for it. Oh, and I also want to say this. I know when I'm looking at it on YouTube right now, what you have on, I gotta highlight this, bro. What I'm seeing on your screen right now is an image of Barack Obama standing in front of purple and gold, right? That's what you still have on the screen, or is that just me? Did I pause it there?
Yeah, you probably paused it there.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, anyway, I want to say that image that he's standing in front of, those are indigenous designs that was made from what they call African Americans, Negroes, blacks, but we know as Moors and indigenous people, those designs he's standing in front of were made from brothers and sisters in New Orleans. That is no cap. Real talk. That's the significance of what he was standing in front of speaking. So again, back to signs and symbols, right? Like that to me was dope. You know, like everything about it was indigenous. So yeah, that definitely meant something. Like they did the metal work and the iron and all of that. It could be, check it out. Well, yeah. My fault. I just wanted to comment that on the intro, man. That was dope. And I don't know if you want to add on, but I know that you may want to add on about you know the lecture that was supposed to happen this weekend.
Yeah.
And what happened with that? You may not. I figure you might want to talk about that. But yeah, more like just let people know what happened.
Well, first of all, honors to the Moors who've been supporting the lecture tour thus far. You know, we did our Houston stop, we did our ATL stop. We're supposed to be in Virginia this weekend. April, we have Pickering, which is out here. May supposed to be NC, June supposed to be Maryland. So honors to the Moors who've been supporting, and not just for this, but throughout the whole time of putting this information out, supporting the books and the music and all that. So as I was saying, and we talked about this on the live earlier on Instagram, but we could definitely go over it again, that the way the way that things play out sometimes, you just have to embrace what it is. Some of the astrological Moors had sent me some stuff about today being Black Box Day, and today is like worst day to travel ever, and today is all types of stuff. It was crazy. So flight was 6 something 6 something a.m. this morning. So on the way to the airport, I checked and this is something that's gonna come in later, but I'm just setting it up for right now. I do the online check-in just so you don't have to go deal with the line or whatever, right? So every other time, did the online check-in. Pull it up. They give you your boarding pass over the phone. You either screenshot it or save the page or whatever, and you just swipe that and you go wherever you want with that boarding pass, as far as airport is concerned. But it had asked me about am I a United States resident? Am I a United States citizen? Am I a non-immigrant? Asking me these questions before I could proceed further. So I was like, oh yeah, no big deal. You don't have to do the online check-in. You know what I mean? I'll just go up to the machine and just do it at the airport. So I get there, put the stuff in the machine. It's telling me see the assistant or whatever, right? Machine's not. There's no machine. Machine's not happening, basically, right? Tried 3 or 4 of them, all of them same thing. Go to the desk and there's a lineup. So obviously this is a thing, whether it could be a thing because it's March break, you know what I mean? So but if it's March break, why not have the machines working so people could go through faster? You know what I mean? That's the whole point of the machine or whatever. So in this line, and not even thinking about anything, you know what I mean? Just in this line waiting to go to the front. Get to the front first thing. Vaccine pass. Vaccine pass. I don't have vaccine pass. Well, you're not going to be able to fly because anybody who's going into US needs to have a vaccine pass. Like, all right, well, I just traveled, the past 2 months. I just came, just like this. I came up here, showed my passport, and CDC and Biden administration and all this, and start telling me all this stuff about Biden and whatever. Like, well, I have an exemption. Well, you're gonna have to call this number. So call up this number. Talk to somebody who put me on to a manager because they couldn't deal with it or something, right? Manager comes on. Manager saying, only way that you're going to get an exemption is if Secretary of State or Biden approves it, right? And then in order for them to approve it, you have to send it to whoever that gets the exemptions, and obviously their office is closed. It's 3 a.m. So it's not happening. So I'm at the airport, just on the phone with her. She's checking this, checking that, putting me on hold, whatever. Is on the phone about an hour. Finally came back and said, it's not happening because the office is closed. I can't approve anything or whatever. So like that's pretty much it. Like, if you're not vaxxed, you're not flying. All right, whatever. So I say forget this. If that's what it is, then I'm going home. Get home and get a call from the Moors that booked the flight that they just got a refund and the flight's canceled because there's some freeze warning. There's some freeze weather warning in North Carolina, and no flights are going there. So all the flights for that morning, they're not happening. So they gave them their refund. And I'm telling Moors, you know, what's happening. And probably about 10 out of 13 Moors, about 10 out of 13 Moors said, you know, Allah is the best of planners. Allah is the best of planners. And it made me realize that we can't keep looking at certain actions that we see happen and not acknowledge that it's because of what we're doing. People could say whatever. People could doubt. People could talk crazy, whatever, when it comes to Moors. Make videos, do whatever. But certain things, you have to acknowledge that there's something that the Moors are doing. Right? One of the Moors out here keeps talking about, he thinks that COVID was because of Moors waking up. Forget whatever else they're talking about. COVID was about these Moors who are getting out into the public and letting it be known. And this activity can't be stopped, like we know. We know they can't stop it. All they could do is try to slow it down. And all these things happening is them attempting, trying their darndest to slow this down. And the reality is that they can't. So then it went back again. So, well, okay, so if it can't, then we can't even be looking at these people who's stopping people at the border and all that stuff as if they're the problem. They're not the problem. The problem are the people who don't want to go with what the Moors are saying. That's the problem. The problem are the ones who are looking at Moors as if we're some religious thing, or we're some rights thing, or we're some national thing, or we're some sovereign thing, and they're not seeing the big picture. Which is why the conditions like what happened, right? Which is why these things are able to happen. Because again, you know, why the weather thing canceled, so flight was canceled anyways. While they're talking about you can't fly because of whatever, how is it that no vax, you can't fly, but at the exact same time the flight's canceled and it can't fly anyways? Why is this stuff happening? Why didn't the lady who I talked to on the phone say, hey, you know what? The flight's actually canceled? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure a flight's not canceling without everybody knowing that the flight's canceled. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but I yield the floor. That was pretty much, you know, how it went for the morning and the different parts.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this, and I told you earlier. I don't know what's going on with all the flights and all of that, but it could be like based off of, and I don't buy into, you know, propaganda, fake news, and all of that. But I do pay attention to what narratives are out there as far as what's going on in the world. And it just struck me strange that so-called Russia attacked the U.S. drone in the Black Sea, right? And so I know this is not a topic people care about or even really want to hear about, because the sense of nobody wants to hear about war and destruction. But there's operations going on right now that could very well lead to that, and that is the truth, right? So when you talk about flights and what was happening in different airspaces and all of that, I think is deeper than what they're saying. Like, they might be saying, oh, because you're not vaccinated, but we know that's BS because, you know, you already slid once or twice, you know what I mean? You already came through. So, you know, that's not it. And so, you know, and I'm just saying that not to be too involved in it, but I'm saying that I think it's something going on in the airspaces right now where it is going to be harder. Because remember, they found out, you know, there was air balloons flying over the Western Plains, and I think it was Nevada or something of that sort, right? And so we know that, like, right now it's up. It's definitely up, and they're going to make it harder to move around on the land, air, and sea in a sense, because, you know, even on the land, you see gas prices raising and dipping, just getting people ready for the hike again, right? Like, and so, yeah, I feel like there's something going on worldwide in these airspaces. They got crafts off the coast of Japan. They got permission denied from Turkey in the Black Sea. It's just so much going on.
Oh
right?
yeah, and the mothership that they just found in our galaxy or whatever that they just came up. They just found a mothership in our galaxy.
No, not the mothership. What?
Yeah.
I said that the mothership can't save you. You gonna get left, man. Whoa. Yeah, nah, real talk though. I mean, there's all types of stuff going on, and I say that because it's a real thing, bro. Like, whether the story is true or false, like, it is a real thing that these so-called accredited news agencies are releasing documents about how they say they find UFOs that submerged in the Pacific Ocean and reappeared. I mean, like, the narrative itself is being pushed. I'm not trying to push the narrative, but when I think about it, and I think of all of these different things, it's like it's something going on above us, you know what I mean? Whereas, yeah, it's getting real aggressive, right? Like, you got people defending, and from their position, they're defending their homeland, you know, attacking drones out the sky, and other positions is, you know, well, we're just trying to make sure everything is how we want it to be. You never know. I'm just saying, we in the times where anything could happen right now. And yeah, I didn't want to read too much into it, but I think about that when I think about airspace, because it just happened 2 days ago, you know, and so there may be something else going on, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, there's a lot going on. You know what I mean? And Juali told you that they're going to be trying every weak mind out here. So when the more extravagant, the more extreme that you hear them talk, you know, should give you an indication. You know, because they have to amp up the voltage. You know, they have to put the speakers up more, because not everybody's hearing their madness. Everybody's not going with it. You know, like everybody's not going with it. The program. So they've been implemented programs, many different types of programs. But one of the things that you said, that the distractions now is an aerial thing. You know what I mean? It's above the walking realm. The walking jurisdiction has nothing to do with where they're at with it now. As far as the propaganda machine, right out there. You know, it's a out there concept that a man could change to a woman. That's out there.
Crazy.
Like that's not a reality. You know what I mean? It's spaced out. The idea that they can put some chemicals in some water and turn fish gay or whatever. Right? In the water world. People showing giant stuff right now. Giant stuff in there. Just washing up.
Oh, yeah, might I add, being in the Northeast, you know, the Mid-Atlantic region, from December to February, from December 2022 Gregorian calendar to February 2023, and I don't know, I lost count. Maybe it's still happening, but there has been a odd amount of whales washing up on the East Coast, bro. Yeah, like an odd amount at a rapid pace, right? And people are speculating, is it, you know, are they running from something? Like, how is it that these many whales, I think it was like 23 in 2 months, right, washing up on the shore, you know, from like Atlantic City up to Queens, in that area, like there's been sightings of whales washing up on shore. Pardon me, it might not be Queens, it might be one of the islands. I know it's one of the 5 boroughs as well, Rhode Island area type thing. Like, because in the bigger picture, these things are not far for these animals, you know, off the coastline. And so that region, you know, there's been like a lot of whales washing up. And so, yeah, you mentioned that, and I'm like, this is a real thing because it's happened as of recent. Like, it's happening. And the question is it the wind turbines they're trying to utilize off the shore to make it, you know, more energy efficient or whatnot? Or is it something else happening? So, yeah, when you mentioned about, you know, things passing and whatnot, I remembered that part.
Yeah.
As of recent.
Yeah, of recent. You know, and I'm sure there's so much other phenomenon that we present some stuff, you know what I mean? Like Juali said, turn people's brain into water. You know?
Yeah.
Because it could be a lot. You know, it could be a lot. A lot of people, if they weren't ready for truth, if they weren't ready for truth before this, then a lot of people are in trouble. Which again goes back to how you looking at what's going on. Like if the whales are running from something, what they running from? What's a whale running from? If it's like that, all these different levels. And then remember that when we talk about, sea life, that's alien. Just like the sky life is alien, the sea life is alien. You ever been there? All right, so shut the hell up about what's going on down there. Just like shut the hell up, what's going on outside of Earth or off Earth. But there's enough history there about from giant people to giant damn sea animals. Right? Ample amounts of evidence. So this is not some far-fetching thing. This is real time right now. And you who doubt, go to those that know law. And then we went to those that know law, and they're passing acts to try to terminate COVID measures and all that stuff, because why is there still stuff going on right now? Why is there still this narrative at play when pretty much the whole world has left this thing? How come it's just these weirdos, the U.S. in Canada? Nobody else is dealing with this thing? Everybody else said that this is some BS and said they're not dealing with it? But this is what you get. This is what you get. Because we're talking about Moors would have had their own airport and all that stuff by now if these Moors did what they're supposed to do in the 20s, instead of playing NOI games and Hebrew games and whatever other games they're playing, that they're still playing with our people today. Why this stuff can't be figured out and would never be figured out, because they keep playing this game. And the more and more time goes, I realize that, oh yeah, this modern European is an infant. He's an infant. He's using what you give him. He's using what you give him. That's all. That's how they're defeating us, because they're an infant. There ain't no way they're supposed to be defeating us. No way. It's impossible. When the adults are getting run out the gym by the youth, it's time to change something up. Chalk it up. Your stuff is dead. We have a direct involvement. Moors have a direct involvement with everything that's going on near U.S. and Canada. Direct involvement. Anything you see talking about rights or violating rights or human rights or trying to stop you from doing something, know that it's because they don't want you to do those things. And why wouldn't they want us to unify? Why wouldn't they want Moors to go meet with other Moors? What's the big deal? What's the purpose of stopping that? Because they know that, energy is transferred. And like we said, we already know that went across the border already. Twice. with no issues. So it's not that. So it can't be that. It can't be you can't cross because you don't, because that's irrelevant at this point. And there's no stamps for the last two places that I went. They've been stamping everywhere else I went. No stamp for the last two places. Houston and Atlanta, no stamp. No passport stamp. Talk about somebody's not doing their job. The whole stuff is defunct. Nobody's doing their job. Nobody has a job. It's all part of the machine. And the Moors, they're seeing what's going on. We're John Connor. We already know what's up. We already see what's at play. And doing what it is that we do as Moors, putting this information out, waking up our people, putting somebody on, telling somebody about this, know that it's having an effect. Know that it's having an effect. Know that you better keep doing that. You better stay on your square. You better not fold when they try to pull some BS on you. Because it's serving a purpose from the energy perspective. Forget be the case. How many more read their Quran? There are all these Moors honoring Noble Drew Ali. That Drew Ali said, it'll surprise me if a Moor would do right. So that's the least that we should be doing. Do something right. And the most right thing you could do is to stand for truth. Make sure you stand for truth. It's imperative that we stand for truth. And speaking about truth, the Love, Truth, Peace, Freedom lecture tour is going to continue Saturday sometime. Just look for the live on Canaanland Moors, because you already know it's not about them stopping this, because we could do the stuff online. It ain't a big deal. Unless the electricity is shutting down on Saturday or something, stuff is going on still. So the peace message of Drew Ali, that's going to be Saturday. Canaanland Moors YouTube, sometime Saturday in the afternoon. Just look for the live. We'll probably send something out anyways. But we have to stand for truth. We have to be on the side of truth and recognize that truth a lot of times, isn't for somebody else. It's for you. Don't be trying to take it and you got it now, you put somebody on or whatever. No, it's for you. Take it and save yourself with it first. Apply it to yourself first before you start applying it to all these other places. But I yield the floor. There's a lot more.
Islam more for sure. All right, so we know that the live is still happening, and there's a way to tap in. For sure. I mean, everything is it's crazy right now. But yeah, for sure though, it's definitely good to know we can still tap into the live. I also wanted to say, regardless of what, every time we do this, it's like something is special about the third Thursday.
Yeah.
I know we took off last month as well. And that's okay. But, again, we here on the Equinox, almost the Equinox, next week. We're closing out the winter season and the dark days and all of that. But also, I remember years ago, I believe we went in on the St. Patrick's Day. I just wanted to say this, because tomorrow is the holy day. Like when you look at the history of the Irish, right? Because they celebrating so-called St. Patrick's Day. Like that's definitely directly a Moorish connection of history. Like it's not like, it's just we're here in North America and that's it. Like Moors have a history that's global, all over the planet, embedded in different European history. Again, for an example, England, they have a national dance, right? And that national dance is called the Moorish dance. It's something that is inherently not European. There is a national dance, like, how there's the national anthem, all of these things. Like the national dance of England is called the Moorish dance, and it is not European origin. And so we have an influence all over this planet. And that influence, that connection that we had in the Moorish Empire, and, people could say, okay, yeah, we got it now via the internet, Facebook, whatever. Cool. But I'm saying like real empire in the 3D world, right? Like that's what Moors had going on, and the history is embedded in every so-called tradition that they say they have today. Because St. Patrick was a Moor, really. And so, I mean, there's just so much Moorish history like that. What they've been trying to do in these different media outlets, they're trying to bury it. Like the Moors of today are some people who sprung up with an ideology from the 70s and 80s, and you know what I mean? When these are ancient principles, right? Like, the history that we acknowledge from our studies, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1 and 2, right? J. Rogers, we know that we have a planetary and everyday publications, Noble Drali, and this is not saying this comparing anybody, it's just, this is the message. You know what I mean? Canaanland Moors, like all the Moors, have been saying these things, and we see that everything is heightened on an international level right now. Even when you're talking about quasi-governments, everything is on an international level, right? Because it has to be, right? Because once you say something like pandemic, that means the planet, right? Like everywhere, not one pocket. That's an epidemic, right? People say we coming out of the pandemic. Whatever it is, whatever you believe is what you believe, but whatever I think is what I think or whatever, but these are global affairs. Like we're living in global times, right? International times. And again, I can't stress enough that they're trying to change the concept of international to modify the jurisdiction to multinational. But we know what international, that applies to everybody. And so, yeah, watch out for that. Again, can't stress it enough. But, yeah, so everything is on an international level right now, bro. And so I would say that our history is as important today as it was back then when we talk about the Irish and knowing what these, not necessarily holidays they're shutting everything down for, but what these things represent, because it's all about the springtime. All of these things are correlative, really, when you really look at it. And so again, I say we sit here on the eve of our acknowledged holy day, and these are the divine happenings that we are on the brink of, and so we don't know what's next as far as what could happen at any moment. Again, with the narratives they painting, that could mean that they're preparing people subconsciously for certain other global catastrophes. And I'm not speaking doom and gloom, I'm just saying, right now, everything is possible. Everything is possible. Anything. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting times we're in. But yeah, for sure, I want to thank you again because here we are. This marks like the 9th year we've been doing Sons of Allah, and so that also means something to me more, you know, and that's for real. So 9 years in, and we've covered a lot of topics. Some of them we've seen resurface again because you know the days past 7. You know what I mean? When you add the year and how it changes every year, and you know here we are revisiting that, and so I just think that's dope. You know what I mean? That even in these days and times, we got a reference to point to remind more. It's like all of this stuff that they're doing is directly sprung from our culture. Like there's nothing. Whenever they idolizing, you know, saints and you know, etc. Like Moors have a history in that, you know, and I think that's important to know. Definitely. And a lot of this stuff wouldn't even make sense if we didn't know the history. Like, we know what's right and what's wrong. Inherently, you can know what's right and what's wrong. But when you know the history behind something and why it's right, you know, it makes a lot more sense. So even when we talking about Moors heritage, history, the law, because everything has a history, right? So there's a history of the law. And so without knowing that history of the law, there's like, you don't really know why it's even important. And not knowing who was involved in that as far as the image and likeness, right? They always paint this narrative like we were some subservient people who were savages and didn't have any culture and all of this when like everything came from us. And it's not just because we're seeing that. Like, that is what the historical records show. Like, if we go beyond their modern school system, and I believe, I trust, and I hope at this point in time, everybody understands that what the schools are doing today, they should have no credibility. Like, no credibility. Right? They're teaching the youth that, you know, people, they may have been born with the wrong gender so they could choose. You know what I'm saying? Anybody talking like that, you should never even consider as a valid source of information. So when people who come from these schools of thought, you know, whether it be in this time or, you know, the change in the school of thought 10 years ago or even 20 years ago, and I say that because the curriculums are getting worse as time goes on in these public schools. Remind you, they took cursive out, but they don't know how to sign a check. You know what I mean? They don't know how to leave their unique mark, whether they think it's chicken scratch. You know, these are things you perfect in leaving your mark. It's spiritual. You know what I'm saying? They're not teaching them that. So when we look at the history, right, like if we could say there's something wrong with having that conversation with people who didn't even hit puberty yet, right? Like, you know, I'm sure parents handle that aspect of teaching them about puberty, but when that's a part of the school curriculum and they're teaching them things out of the law of nature, right? It's wrong. Some people say it's wrong. Others fight that it's right. It's just weird. It's weird. There's no etiquette in that to me. Like that doesn't sound like it has etiquette. You know what I mean? And so, again, these schools of thought that keep getting worse. If we're comparing the truth to that, right? That standard, that curriculum, and this is what they decided is the best thing to teach, then we have to say, hold on. There might be another body of information and another curriculum that the babies may need to be taught as far as the truth of history, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, let's not act like that is the be-all, end-all of education. We didn't learn everything in K through 12, right? And some of us didn't go to college. Some of us did. And And even if you did or didn't, you still didn't learn everything in those years you did or wasn't supposed to, or whatever it may be, right? Like, you could still graduate college and not know it all, right? So there's always information and history for us to be looking into. And I'm just saying, there's nothing on this planet that connects us more than the legacy of the Moors, the history of the Moors. I'm so serious when I say that. Like, again, J.A. Rogers, Nature Knows No Color Line, Ancient and Modern Britons. Again, I'm sincerely saying this, you know, Harvey Bay Publications, the history about the Sundry-Free Moors. Like, there's nothing as far as historical accounts that I've read or know about that, like, supersede the intricate details of how Moors influenced American society and even the de facto United States, fam. And that's real talk, down to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? Like, we're in everything. And so that's just one thing I wanted to highlight about being here, like so-called St. Patrick's Day. We know that even down to stuff like that, you know, Moors have a background in the origin story. And I'm not saying everybody should wear green tomorrow because it's St. Patrick's Day. I'm just saying, just keep in mind, like, what you're going to see, you still have a connection to that history. That's really what I want to highlight as far as we are concerned, as far as a historical account. Because again, we know they try to say Black History, February 1st to 28th. You know, we know we're not Negro, Black, and color as it showed in the intro, Cujo. It's already established in these museums. They lost already. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to argue. Like, this is basic. The youth is supposed to be on field trips like that, too. You know what I'm saying? But they already know we're not these things. And so I just think that there is an alternate curriculum. Whereas if school is going to be something that is really taken serious and quote-unquote homeschooling, we got to know that there's different venues than just being in the house. Because a lot of the youth will tell you, even with them going to school through the pandemic, that, yeah, it was kind of boring. You know, they liked it more in class. Some of them liked it out of class or not, as far as the learning session. But one thing that never gets old or boring is getting out of the house and going to do something. Right? Like, that's always fun, especially when you got the energy, right? So field trips, going to the museums, all of this with that, is that not in the curriculums nowadays? I don't know. I mean, like, that part is that is such a big part of learning, because you're taking people outside the setting of a classroom for them to be interactive and see for themselves. And it's nothing like that, you know what I mean? And so I'm just saying, all of these curriculums in these days and times could be challenged. And I feel like when it comes to the aspect of history, that Moorish history, I don't think, even for those who think they Negro, Black, colored, African American, the part that they're missing and may never understand until they get this is understanding the history of the Moors. None of this will make sense. What they call today white supremacy and Black oppression and all, none of it will ever make sense until you really know the true history about Moors. It just cannot. And even when you think to know, it's still so much more to know, right? And so this has to be a subject matter that is taken so serious, right? Because it is the foundation for everything. People think, oh yeah, since Obama and they shot Sean Bell, and you know, I'm not downplaying any of that. But the reality is, this energy been here longer than this, right? Between a hostile group and a peaceful, or however you want to see it. At different points, there were different energies. Moors running down, capturing them off the British Isles and whatnot. Like, let's not get this confused. Like, we were the only slaves, and we didn't have Europeans enslaved. We already know this. I'm not saying that's a cool thing. I'm just saying that is a true fact of history. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Like, I know they may not teach it, but they're not teaching a lot of stuff. And so, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? We have to do these ancillary studies and make sure we know. Because if not, much is lost. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, yeah, I think there's enough information that we contributed, others have contributed, that this story shouldn't and couldn't be lost. But it can in the meanwhile, because people are acting like they don't know, bro, and not living accordingly. So, you know, but I'm not judging. I'm just saying, you know, there is a lot of footprints out there. And, yeah, you know, I just feel like these curriculums could be challenged and need to be. Because this education, this learning thing is definitely not a game, but there's so much being left out. And it's intentional.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't understand the valid reason why they would take cursive, writing in cursive out of a curriculum.
Yeah.
Like, why? That will never make sense.
A lot of things they take out. You know, even the trades. You know what I mean? I remember, you know, sisters had hairdressing class. There was cooking classes. There was, you know what I mean, mechanics. There was, you know, drafting and all that. They don't have those stuff anymore. You know, that's not going on in the institutions. You know, and these are key subjects that not only, you know, make you intelligent, but you know, you become men and women when you start getting involved in certain things. You know, home ec. You know what I mean? You know how many brothers learned how to get up in the morning, eat some breakfast in home ec? Just home ec class. You know, mechanic shop, art class.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they used to cater to the intellectual maturation of young people. But that's long and gone now. You know what I mean? That's long and gone. Like somebody said in the chat, even basic life skills they don't have. And they're not being taught. And the concept of, you know, the village raising the child is almost gone. You know.
Yeah.
And a lot of these ancient techniques and whatever like that, especially the spiritual disciplines, as usual, the Moors are the ones who are preserving these things. When we look at right now, the whole concept with holistic health and all that, you know, like these people dropped the ball after Layla Africa and these people. Moors are the ones keeping certain things alive. Which you know, it's only right. Who else is it gonna be? You know what I mean? That's what it's always been. The Moors coming to save the day. That's what it's always been. The Moors saving the day. You know?
And I don't know what happened or all the details, but when you mentioned health and people dropping the ball, I recall just a couple weeks ago, you know, Styles P on the East Coast, he got the juice bar and whatnot. In case everybody, you know what I mean? And he did a live saying how they're trying to shadow ban him for what he teaches about the herbs and things like that.
Yeah.
So when you mention the health in these days and times, like there's a lot of ideologies and facts and exercising the free thought that they are trying to block. And the question is why, right? Like, what is it about that? What do they have that truth and, free thought would disturb their so-called system? Why is that an issue? It's not the free thought or the truth itself, but why would that be an issue, right? Like, I mean, you always gotta have etiquette, of course. But at the end of the day, why would the truth be a problem? That would have to be only for somebody who's lying. You know what I mean? Like, and so, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, so when I seen that happen to the brother, I was like, oh man, these are some crazy times. Like, there's something with the communications. And while we on that note, just want to say, RVBayPublications.com is back online. The majority may know, but just putting it out there because, it went down for a week. But it is back up. I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, all of those things was happening at the same time. I'm like, hold on, there gotta be something. Maybe it's a Mercury retrograde. I don't know. But there's something, you know what I mean? And like, I'm saying that to say that, I mean, nothing happens by accident, right? So, yeah. But the health portion, as the older we get, the more we realize it's important. Some people recognize earlier, but there is nothing like, having your maximized health intact, that is always a beautiful thing, very necessary. It could be anything. Like I said a couple months ago, I had a shoulder injury. And, it just put me in check. Like, before anything, before the money, before all of that, health is first, right? So I'm not saying, I'm the healthiest and, but I'm just saying I do realize there's value in that. And there's also a war in that area too. We talked land sea earlier, and that when you was mentioning what's even under the water. And I'm like, well, that's what brought me to the thought of the whales. But at the end of the day, there's an attack on so many levels that even with medicine, it's not always healing. Again, we mentioned before what was happening at Henryton Hospital in Maryland. Like, we already went into that. I think that was the solstice 2021. And so when we look at these things, it's not a myth of why things like that have been shunned by these systems, right? Like, there's been institutions, they set up institutions just to test on us. It's not a joke. Yeah, so yeah, more like, I don't know. I think, it's a new beginning for everybody in a sense. Every day is a new beginning. But definitely in these days and times, again, I think everybody had raised their awareness to the aspect of like how important health is. And, without it, you can't do nothing, mental, physical, spiritual, molecular, all of that health means everything, bro. Nothing is popping without it, bro. Nothing.
It's nothing's popping.
Yeah.
Were there any hands up over there?
Yeah, pardon me, my fault. No, as of now, no. We didn't. I don't know if we ran the number across the screen as well.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, for now, no. We could either continue on, or we could, call it an evening. If you want to add anything on, I know we on the check-in for the vernal equinox, so I'm chilling right now, bro.
Yeah, straight up.
But
straight up.
Yeah. I mean, a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking about a lot going on, and we're talking about the schools thing too. We want to put out the importance for the people with children. You know, this trans shit is getting crazy. So be very, open and mindful with your children so they know what the hell's going on out here. Because these people aren't playing by any rules. Right? When they're having trans come and strip for your children without your consent on lunch and all that stuff, mandatory assembly and all this type of stuff, you should start considering certain things with regard to those institutions and your children, right? I've been just looking at a lot of the detransitioner people and just how crazy their life has become after making such a mistake, with their life, saying that they want to be some next gender and all this craziness, but they're going after the children, right? Know that the children are their target. These people are not playing, so stop playing with them and get serious about your children's lives, because they really don't care about them. They're food. They're a meal, energy meal, whatever it is that they're looking for. They're trying to get it from your children. So that's why you got 10 jobs, so that you could never be around your children or be in their life. And it goes back again to the thing with the village that raised the child, that even back in the day, if your mom had 10 jobs, you at least had some dudes on the block that's going to look out for you. You at least had your mom's friend Cheryl. Your mom's friend Cheryl used to always look out for you. Right? That was there. You might have had grandma, somebody around. But the patriarchal move is against your children right now. And do not be naive with these devices and them having devices that they're not looking up porn and shit like that. So make sure you freaking check their phone and all that. Just like how moms used to do, check their room, go underneath the stuff, pull the stuff out, look under the whatever, look behind the stuff, right? Not because you're nosy, but because you care. Then there's an agenda against Asiatic children. And there's an agenda against Asiatic children. Right? A purposeful, very diabolical agenda against your children.
Right, because they know, to highlight how important it is that it's against the children. Like, they know people of our generation already know the difference, right, between a man and a woman or male and female. They're not trying to teach us that in the classroom, right? They don't care what we think. They have a new plan. And for those to buy in, they have to be young enough to not understand the difference. or to be manipulated into thinking a certain way. So again, the mind of the youth for the young and yet unborn, right? And so they know that we already know that, they're phasing something else in, right? But it's not about us in that sense. It's about what they're trying to get the youth to perceive. And so that is the most important thing, as you're saying, bro. That is it. I never seen them. I mean, except for like on the house floor, you got a bunch of old people with different ideas, and no disrespect to the elderly. I'm just saying some of them are, some of the political views and points are antiquated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, real talk, and it is what it is. I mean, in some cases, as old as the Constitution is, the principles are still valid to this day. Valid, recognized, right? Like, it is what it is. I'm just saying some of these ideologies that come from people who claim to be politicians, right? They're just, it's outdated. And so everything is about the now and the new. The world we know is somewhat still here, but it's fading out since the pandemic happened. The old way, as they call it. Everybody has to have a new normal, as they say. But, I mean, there's different shifts that are happening to whereas now it's about the now and the principles that are to be left now for the generations hereafter. Because the young, they may know what happened, but they don't really know what happened, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, and we're not supposed to stay stuck in the past, but we're aware enough to know the difference in the times just beyond 3 years ago and what it is right now, right? Like, life is what you make it. You can live in your own reality, but just as far as the ways of the world, like, a lot of stuff changed. And some stuff needed to change. Some stuff needed to die off. It really did. But nonetheless, that's what happened. And through all that, we still here. You know what I mean? And so, in these days and times, it's definitely more important for us to get our word out and the old message out as far as these historical references and sources, also sources of law and natural law, more important than ever. And more so, I'm just saying there's so much. Like, even, again, I don't know, I didn't, let me see, let me refresh. I just know where you left it on the screen with, okay, I'm back. I see where you at with it now. On the screen, you have children's rights and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Okay, that is so dope. Because it's all about birthrights, right? And so there's many different rights that fall in that category. But I mean, there's so many issues on that level. Sometimes I don't even understand it. Like, they have different systems even attacking the youth and taking the youth away from the parents. And I'll say this, because this is Sons of Allah, and this is no bias, but I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. As we're talking about youth, parents, and the rights of children, also the rights of parents, one thing that bothers me is that it's not the concept, but it's how it's used, right? Like, so I don't know about everybody listening, but I know in the region I'm at, they have something called the Amber Alert, right? Like, it's something called the Amber Alert for when a child goes missing. Like, you're going to get an alert to your phone whether you know this child or not, right? Like, it'll break through. Like, remember how back in the days they used to have emergency local testing on the TV, and this is a local test. This is not an emergency, right? Like, it'll just break through your phone like that and alert you that there's a child that has been kidnapped. But I kid you not, every one of them that ever came to my phone, in the end, the child was always kidnapped, allegedly kidnapped by the father. Right? Like every one of them I ever seen. It was never like it was a stranger that kidnapped this child. They would be alerting everybody in the world or in the region about a child being kidnapped because they're with their father. Now again, I'm not trying to make fun of this because I don't know what caused the origin of this Amber Alert. I don't know if she was murdered by her father. I don't know. But I know it bothers me to see that this is something we all get put alert on, you know what I'm saying? Like put on alert about for a father being with their own child or, you know, being parent to the child. However we want to look at that, it is what it is. I'm just saying, like, why do they alert us about a father being with his child, whether that's a son, daughter, whatever? Like, what is wrong with that? Why do we all got to be put on alert about that? Like, why is this message breaking through our phones? Because 99 to 100% of the time, it is a father who has his child. What is this about? This is not attacking women. I'm just saying, like, why is this a thing? Like, and it really bothered me because it's like, that's none of our business at the end of the day. Like, okay, so you put us all on alert because the alleged father is with the child. We supposed to be on the alert, like, and drop everything and make sure we on the lookout every time because a quote father was with a child. Like, that's something so civil that we don't need to even have no notice about, really, in my perspective. In my perspective, like, I don't, you don't have to tell me it's an emergency because a parent, whether it be a father or a mother, is with their child. That is not alarming to me. Why is that being, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but I know that is something that they have. It's called the Amber Alert, and I personally never seen it be something other than the parent with the child. I never seen it. A stranger was kidnapped the child, and the child was recovered. It's always the parent, and I'm like, that's none of our business. Why don't we have these alerts for actual strangers out here kidnapping children?
Yeah.
Why is that not a thing?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Why we ain't never get no alert about that? Why come every time it is the parent that has the child? This is funny business. That's weird to me. Yeah, but my bad. But have you ever heard of the Amber Alert or not?
Yeah, we got it. But yeah, usually when the thing comes up, it's just like the card description or something like that. I never got any that were detailed, like who it was that took whoever or whatever. It would just be this car alert. You know what the car looks like, the license plate or whatever. But yeah, it's all part of the same. It's all part of that same program. No mess the family.
Right, and so when I think about what you have on the screen as far as the children's rights and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, like, who determines that? Like, is it not? I mean, we know, as it showed in the video, and again, thank you, salute to you for playing the intro of when we were at the museum. I know in there the maxim is the condition of the mother determines the condition of the child. Right? We know that's a fact. But does the child not have a right to be in tune with whoever their father is? Like, does it mean that? Like, I mean, like, is it wrong for the father to take the child to the more, like, I mean, I've heard of incidents where there was literally the father taking the child to the mall to buy them clothes for school, right? And, like, got locked up for child support.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's insane. To me, that's insane. Like that just doesn't make sense. But I mean, I don't know. Who am I? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
you don't know anything.
yeah, I just think like if it's about the child and the rights of the child, like there's a broad scope that goes with that. You know, as far as how many rights they have, birth rights, you know what I mean, human rights, individual rights, natural rights, all types of rights. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, like I don't know, man, but I know it's about them. You know, I feel like even in these days and times, being in my mid-30s, bro, like sometimes I look back when I was a youth, and I understand the old heads at that time, those who was in their, you know, late 20s, mid-30s, 40s, back then talking about, yeah, this music y'all listen to is garbage. They don't have no real instruments and all that. And, you know, we was listening to fire as far as I was concerned. But now it's like, I get it. Like, because the stuff that I hear now, some of it I can't relate to. It's not that it's garbage. I just can't relate to it. Right? Like, it's different. You know what I'm saying? And so, in that aspect, we all see through the generations, like, the change, even in the music, even in the utility of technology. There's always change happening. And so, yeah, who's going to keep those changes alive? And what I mean by that, like, I remember payphones. You slip the quarter in, 50 cents to extend the time, however many quarters, like you extend the time. It's a thing of the past at this point, whereas everybody got a cell phone, right? But back then, everybody did. So I'm just saying from our experience, we could see the change. Like even buying music, like you used to get the physical CD, now you get the digital right to your phone or to your laptop or smart device. Like we constantly seeing change. Again, one more example, you know, the Boost Mobile chirp phones and the Nextel chirp phones, the handheld screen TVs, mini TVs in our palms, right? And so there's always evidence of society changing. And again, the only way that happens is through the more genius citizens, the youth, right? Like they, you know what I mean? Remember Noble Drylee was speaking about the society being prepared by more geniuses or genius citizens, right? And so that's the youth at this point, but they gotta have the history too. It'd be good for them to know. It wouldn't hurt for them to know, opposed to be oblivious to what things were. You know, but at the same time, we can't stay stuck in the past as we're just giving them reference points, right? Like they gotta keep it moving too. And so, yeah, I don't know. Just off the bat, like when I seen the image of what you have on the screen, the children's rights and the Convention of the Rights of the Child, and all of these things, and what you said even previous to that, they're attacking the youth's mind in a sense. I feel like, you know, it is important for them to know what's really good, you know? And so, yeah, that is a major aspect of why even Noble Drylee said this was for the young and yet unborn. Because, you know, after a certain age, people get stuck in their ways. Some people change, but, you know, optimism is a key to youth, you know? And so, yeah, I just think that's dope. Was there anything you wanted to mention specifically, though, from the children's rights and the Convention on the Rights of the Child while you had it on the screen?
No, it was just based on you know, children's rights are something that are sacred. You know what I mean? It's something that has been in conversation a long time, making sure that the children are protected. You know, and it seems like there's been this thing of not protecting the children. You know, they've been getting the raw end of the deal for a fair while, and not any fault of their own. So it was just because we know that children's rights exist, and they have conventions on the rights of a child and all this, and for children to still be suffering even though they have this stuff, and we talked about during the whole lockdown stuff with people who they're in abusive homes and they're locked down in these abusive homes for 3 years. That's gonna take a toll. That's gonna take a toll on you. Having to deal with that. The mental, the destroying of mental health. Like people not even realizing that they have mental issues because it's so normal. It's such a normal thing to be in mental distress. It's almost like that's all they know. But they have to be protected from those things. That can't be something that they're dealing with, especially when they have adults on the premises. They're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be there. But that's where it is, from not doing what we're supposed to be doing, for real. And going back to the old ways. The village raising the child. You see some child in distress or some child doing something crazy or whatever like that, you pull them and you wring their ear for them. Let it be known. Let it be known that you're doing your part in making sure that children's rights, the rights of the child, are protected. Making sure, make it a duty that a child, a teen, or whatever, once a day you engage one, even if it's just to tell them, hey, how you doing? Have a good day. Because they're going through a lot. They're going through a lot that we can't really deal with conventionally. We're gonna have to space out to try to solve these issues. We're gonna have to look at things from a different perspective. But I yield the floor more.
Facts, bro. Understood. We have a caller from 901. I hope this is who I think it is. I'm hoping this is the brother Moreno. Oh, Bay, peace, caller 901-626. If you're not, pardon me, bro. Pardon me, fam.
Islam, brother. Me.
Islam, boy.
I already knew. I know. Yeah, peace, bro. Glad to have you on the line, bro.
I appreciate that. I wanted to personally call in and give honors to both of you brothers for all that you do, all that you've done, and all that you will do in the future. Peace to y'all, bro.
Likewise, bro. Peace to you, more for sure.
Peace, more, peace.
Hey. Yeah. I've been listening to the entire class, man. It's been wonderful. I remember the video, the first video that was up on Mantis Views. I remember that. Since it's been quite some time, but I remember that video, man. That's one of my favorites.
Yep.
Dope, bro. That's so dope. Yeah, I remember you commented on that one. I appreciate it.
Definitely. That's a good one. Brother Cujo.
What's good, more?
Man, you, bro.
Yeah.
My first time talking to you in a minute.
It's been a little bit.
It's been a minute.
But we're here. You know when you know when you have that, when we have that good Moorish unity, you know, there no time is an illusion.
It sure is.
You know what I mean? And whenever we talk to the brothers or the mothers, it's like we talked yesterday, no matter how much time in between happened.
You definitely know what to say, brother.
Yeah,
Definitely know what to say, man. Just sitting back, man, just listening to everything, man. I'm a student right now. You feel me?
Yeah, that's what's up.
Everything, man. Getting it in.
Yeah. We were joking about that. We were joking about that on the weekend because we were building with Denamel on the weekend, and he was talking about, you know, watch out, brother Denamel.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was talking about how a lot of these people want their titles, and he was talking about how, you know, how can I be a master teacher when I'm a master student?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm definitely on the student tip right now.
for real. Yo, glad you're able to be here, yo, and you know, we know that you never left. We know that it's always been in your heart, you know. So, you know, in joking fashion, you know, welcome back.
Man, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I had to come back, man. It's in me, man. I couldn't stay gone no longer, man. You know, so I'm back now, and I appreciate y'all, brothers, man.
I think Ms. is muted. You there, Ms.?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think Ms. is muted
fine.
though.
Yeah, I yield the floor.
It's a lot more. Give thanks, yo.
It's fine.
Yeah, Ms., we're not hearing you unless you stepped away or something.
Peace, boy. Yeah, pardon me. That was my bad, bro.
All good.
I apologize.
All good.
I was not. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say to the brother Moreno Bay as well, man. I definitely want to let the brother know we appreciate him. I know I appreciate him, even from back then to now. You know, the brother was showing improving as well. I'm a little upset still that I didn't catch him when he came up north, but I definitely appreciate that brother, man. Like, and I'm glad to see him back out on his mission of getting the word out. You know, I don't know. I hope you're still listening, bro. Nah, I think he dropped. But
yeah, I think he
brother was always. Yeah, I definitely appreciate the brother. I just wanted to say that.
Yes,
and I was hoping he actually heard me, because I really mean that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, salute to that brother for being on the path and being enlightened and sharing, you know what I mean, what his knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is. Because it's much appreciated, you know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. Definitely acknowledgement to that brother in the other Egypt. You know what I'm talking about? In the real Egypt. You know what I'm talking about?
The real Egypt. not that fake stuff with the dusty ass pyramids over there.
Yeah. Yo, it's funny, bro. When you mentioned dusty pyramids, I met a group of pilots the other day. Pilots and flight attendants, and we was chopping it up. And I was asking them different questions about the world, you know what I mean? Because they said they were from Arizona. They were from Arizona. And I asked them, about the Grand Canyon and whatnot. They said, yeah, it's parts of it in Arizona or whatnot. I was like, okay. And I'm like, do y'all think that it came from, like, it was once waterways? And they were like, yeah, absolutely, it was. That's how the rocks you see look so smooth. I'm like, yeah, that's dope. So that's the same thing I thought. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that is that smooth, like stone, rock. It can't get that smooth, or even look that smooth and marble, like without water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They was like, yeah, absolutely, it came from water. And so I asked them too, like, since they were always flying, have they ever seen anything that would be considered unusual from an earthly perspective? In other words, what they might call UFOs, whatever. And they were like, yeah, we've heard plenty stories. Some of us saw and some of us have not, right? Like some of them, it was 4 of them. And some of them saw it, some of them didn't. But it's a thing when they up there, like, you know, and so, yeah, it's just crazy when you mention the dusty Egypt and all of that. And we know that even in the Grand Canyon, all of that out west, the UFO sightings that have been alleged for years and mythized, you know, Area 51, all of that. For them to say that, you know, it's a thing, and even the artifacts that was found out there that were considered, quote, African, North African, Egyptian, etc. When I hear those stories, I think the same thing. Like, even though it's sandy and dusty over there, we know that that is an indication that water was somewhere around there before, right? Like, and so maybe things dried up. You know what I mean? It was a certain current and a certain flow, but as above, so below. Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, right? As above, so below. I feel like the same things that are over there are still over here, in a sense, right? But we know that this is probably the most fertile land on the planet, right? Like it's the most abundant in the sense of the diversity of the terrain. So yeah, I don't know. I just felt like sharing that off the strength that when you mentioned the dusty parts and all of that, like it was like, yeah, and it's kind of some parts like that over here too, what they call the deserts and things like that. But there's evidence of a civilization there that, you know what I mean? It shows that, well, even before it is what it is now, there was something else going on there. There's definitely something else going on there. There's no doubt about it. Like, it's super mysterious, right? Like, and so, yeah, the same thing here. We know they found a lot of what they call Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon. But what was the aspect of the desert? Like, what was that about, right? Like, is it something in that? Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'd rather be on fertile land, but there's something about these terrains as well. You know what I mean? The roughest conditions, you know, where there was survival and civilization still. Or maybe it wasn't like that when they were there, but their mark is everlasting.
The mark is there,
These days in time. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you when you were doing the research with regard to the Grand Canyon having water, they say how long ago that was?
No, they didn't mention how long ago precisely, but I would think that it would go back, if we was to look at like the history of what National Geographic was saying, even about parts of Africa being found off the coast of Florida, Georgia, in the Carolinas. Yeah, I had that in one of the videos as well when we were down North Carolina, so-called North Carolina. But I would think that it would be something that goes back maybe hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Because when I look at it, I think it has something to do with the Great Flood, right? Like, we know that in every civilization, every religious text, no matter if they say it's Christian or the Bible or Muslim, Islam, Circle 7 Holy Quran, if we look at the religious aspects and stories of the so-called Mexicans, South Americans, there's always this story about this flood and this deluge that took over the planet, right? Or caused it to be what we know it as today. Every one of them. You could say, well, I'm not a Christian. I'm a Muslim. I'm not a Muslim or Christian. I practice Aztec spirituality, or I'm in the Moorish Science Temple of America. All of that acknowledges in this core doctrine, or in this core text, in this core message, right? Like the standard, all of these things acknowledge that there was a deluge. And so how far does that go back? Because it's in all of these books. So if it was a great flood at one point, is everything still flooded? Did that water retreat? You know what I mean? Like, did it recede? Excuse me. Did that water recede, and that's why it's all deserted now? Because things, that was the ocean floor. Like, I mean, there's so much to speculate on if we're going to put a timeline, but I'm just saying, like, as far as the divinity of the history of the divinity of what happened on this planet, I mean, it's in every core text of every aspect of society. The Great Deluge, the Great Flood. And so I would say if I was to time it, it would have to be somewhere either before or after that. And more than likely maybe after the flood, right? Like after the Great Flood, because I would see that as dried up after, it receded. I could be wrong, but, I would look into that part, if that's a true story. Because there's nobody who's saying, well, like, you got Moors who know they're Moors, and then you got Moors who are just, like, hardcore. It says this in the Circle 7 Quran, and that's cool. We love that, right? Like, that's a great thing. But if we're going to have that mentality, then we still have to acknowledge, if we're hardcore, Noble Dry Lee, and the Circle 7 Holy Quran, and 101s, that's it, that's all, then we still have to acknowledge that there was a great flood, because it's in there, right? And so, what timeline do we put it at? Noble Dry Lee didn't necessarily give a timeline. He just acknowledged the historical event, according to all, true and divine records, if you will. So yeah, pardon me, I don't have the exact date, but I would look into it in that aspect.
It just hit me. It just hit me when you were talking about it, when you talked about it, and I remember what made it stick home to me was they were talking about the water lines, that you could see the water lines or whatever, and but it was never, I never heard about how long ago that was, because it's pretty crazy. If that was water, and let's say that was filled near the top, let's say it was filled near the top, then this was that was definitely no desert. At some time that was definitely no desert. That stuff was flourishing like some Amazon or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can see like the same kind of images and structures, like when they show those. I mean, I don't know what Animal Planet has become on TV these days and what it was back in the days. But when they used to show like the shots of them going underwater and stuff like that, you would see the same type of stone structures under the water.
Yeah.
Like coral reefs and places where fish would hide and live in shelter. Like that's what the Grand Canyon kind of looks like. Like in certain parts that they show up, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like the image where the walls and the canals look like they almost got a marble finish. And when I say a marble finish, I mean like the marbles you play marbles with. Like like you can see that in the walls. And you know that could only happen through water running through that. Like that's the only way stone, rock, or anything gets that smooth. There's no other way you can't sand rock down like that You know what I mean? You can, but it would take a valiant effort. You know what I mean? But to do a whole area like that is almost, nah, I don't see that. Like, they would have made something else if they did. I do believe the best water, and they say the same thing, you know. But, I mean, again, others may speculate different. I'm just saying from the images that I've seen, and there's like trails with, they almost look mountainous, you know, but they're like rock and stone. Is no way that's not a water influence on that. You know what I mean? Yeah. For sure. And then again, it's maybe a lot of stuff going on out there we don't even know. You know, again, that's where in that area, north to south, if you will, out there is where they talking about they spotted balloons or spy balloons and all of this and area 51 and all of that, and you know what I mean? And so what is it about that, you know? And I would say that there has to be something to it. All of that isn't just myth, you know what I mean? Like there's something to it. Yeah, and remind you how close that is to, quote, Mexico. And even when you look at, quote, Mexican God, folklore, stories, whatever, the facts of how they account for history, remember they have an aspect of the same deluge and the same Adam and Eve story. Like all of it is there, different names, but the same thing. And so, yeah, man, it may go back that far, you know, for sure. But again, acknowledgement to J.A. Rogers, because in his book, Sex and Race, he talked about how a dark-skinned race was here in North America for maybe hundreds of thousands of years. Not even maybe, but hundreds of thousands of years. And again, that's so imperative because right now, as we speak and we're living in these times, the colonists, the European colonists that people call white people, they haven't been here in North America for 1,000 years yet. This is not hate speech. This is just a fact. Like they haven't, as far as their colonial conquest and all of that, it hasn't been 1,000 years. 1492 to 2023 is not 1,000. Right? And so all of this stuff is pretty modern as far as them being here. It's very, very new to how this place was. You know, if we're going to go back hundreds of thousands of years. And again, I recall even when years ago you were going to Cincinnati and we was on our way out there, like passing those mounds and stuff. They look like mountains at certain points, but with eyes to see, you could tell those weren't mountains. Those were actually man-built mounds. That wasn't a mountain. And then, you know, right up the street it says, "Oh, welcome to Moundsville." Yeah, because that's where they were building the mounds. Everybody knows there's mounds in Ohio. And in certain parts even, and I can't say I know the whole city or nothing like that, but there were parts of Cincinnati where you could clearly see that, hold on, that's a mound in the so-called city. That wasn't, you know, that's a foundation. You can see it. And yeah, so, you know, that's building is something we do, which is why I don't respect when these Moors try to discredit other Moors, right? They say, oh, those Moors are in masonry. And when masonry is the science of building, what are you talking about? We've always, that is a part of our culture, not no initiated type aspect. But, you know, for them to act like that's not something we're supposed to study. In the name of Noble Drew Ali, they say this. When chapter 5 was all about that. It was all about masonry and building character. But, you know, on the metaphysical, you bring it to the earth realm. And so, you know, there's a lot of confusion or a lot of people who are uninformed trying to point out inform people's flaws when they just don't know. That that's not a flaw. That's an attribute to know that's something you should know about. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, if we say, well, we acknowledge the architecture, which you mean, where's Moorish mark on society? Anytime you see a building with an arch in it, that's Moorish mark on society, in your face on a daily. You know what I mean? That's something we gotta have respect for.
Yeah.
Because it will be throwing culture away to not have a respect for that. To not be inquisitive or to acknowledge that is Moorish science, manifested in a solidified form, not subjective, like actually manifested. So yeah, all of those sciences, bro. There's a unifying factor in all of them, and if we keep looking for what makes us different, we'll find that. But if we realize what makes these things all the same, we'll also find that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, again, I'm not encouraging anybody I will never say, yo, petition to be accepted. I'm just saying, like, know something about these things. And if you do, you would never say nothing ignorant. Like, they're into this science, so they're not that. Like, remember, the reason it's circle 7 is because also of the science of the 7 and how it also plays a role in society, right? So the 7 liberal arts, you know what I mean? We're not going to act like, building isn't a part of that, architecture, whatnot, and so, yeah, I just feel like there's certain aspects of our culture that people are trying to downplay, but these are probably the most important things that we take on the daily. You know what I mean? Like these are the clearest cut evidence of our style, left for hundreds of years. There's been buildings that collapsed during natural disasters, windstorms or whatnot, because they wasn't built with the right material. And these ancient buildings are still standing. And I'm saying that to say that we got to have a respect for operative, not speculative alone, but operative masonry. You can't just throw it out like, it doesn't mean nothing. Like, what you mean? You can't, you know what I mean? Like, it is imperative. Architecture and astronomy are the 2 oldest sciences.
Yeah. Yep. Islam.
Yeah. For sure. So yeah, more I know, hold up a time. What we got? Okay, it's 11.
Yeah.
At the moment we don't have any more hands up. Is there anything you want to say in closing, or anything you want to talk about before we spin out, or
it's a lot more. Yo, just oh yeah, also too we have to build on the after Blog Talk era. So we'll connect on that, but we'll more than likely be running it here, Canaanland Moore's YouTube. So stay close. Stay close to the Canaanland Moore's YouTube for when we do that transition.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're gonna have to talk about that. I guess we might as well just let it be made known now. Like, all right, so as far as the Blog Talk Radio, we are slotted until August of 2023. So I can say at this point, we will definitely be also on Blog Talk until August 2023. But, things may change prior to or after that. Me and Cool Joe is going to work that out as, Morse Heritage and History School, RE Bay Publication is transitioning to the go-to meeting platform, which you can check out. It's also available if you check out rbaypublications.com homepage. So the transitions that are going to happen. First off, I just want to say, 9 years in, bro, man, like, listen, I know there's we've been doing this before the pandemic, and there's ways to switch it up, change things, and things like that. But man, I'm definitely good with shooting for 10 on the form. Like I'm good with it.
Yeah.
But I know that, you know what I mean. I'm like, we there. You know, as a matter of fact, tonight this marks like our 9th year straight, and so you know what I mean. I don't know. I'm just thankful for this opportunity. I know that yes, things are changing and platforms are going to change up, but we still going to continue to do Sons of Allah for sure. But as far as being on the Blog Talk platform, you know, that remains to be announced as far as what's going to happen after August of 2023. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying for now, you'll be able to call in if you like. But eventually, I'm sure, you know, again, new days and times, new platforms, new ways. So this might become even more interactive, you know, doing it on YouTube solely or whatever way it's going to go there, right? Like, so, yeah, but I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I would say that MHHS, eyes wide open, forever be a part of, you know, my memories in life and history and legacy. I'm talking 9 years plus. 2013 was 2013. Yeah. In August, we'll make 9 years on the platform altogether. And what I'm saying is, yo, when we look back, we left a large body of reference points, sessions that people can go back and check, you know what I mean, and fact check, and all of that, you know, and that's a beautiful thing. And we didn't ask for a penny to leave it out for y'all to be able to go back and check the records and cross-reference like we did it, you know, in love, you know what I mean? And so, you know, I mean, I don't know, like, it's just, I don't know. We're going to chop it and make sure we know how we moving forward, because I'm with it, bro. I appreciate it. We in the times where there is a necessity for change, I would say. It don't mean that we have to stop doing what we're doing, but maybe we just do it a different way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe that's just it. Like, maybe that's it. I feel like if we was to like look back at all the body of work and all the sessions we did, we could and we have, like, I feel like in all of that work, we've debunked everything about the misconceptions about us, right? Like, all of the naysayers, if you was to look at what we put out there on these platforms, like, all of that has been debunked already. You know what I mean? Like, to me, like, when you look at it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just a different way of getting it out. Yeah. And again, like I said, it's been debunked already. As the brother Nas said, God sent across the belly. We proved you're lost already. And that's that. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as I'm concerned, the record is there.
It's there.
Like, there's nothing they said about us that hasn't been clarified.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so,
go debate the record.
Yeah.
Go debate the record.
Yeah. Facts.
That's
Facts. And so, it is what it is, bro. There's many times where even we come on, we do this, sometimes I may not have been feeling my best, but as soon as we start tapping in, and you know what I mean, the fam start tapping in and tuning in, chiming in, and you know, everything is all is well again, man. So I appreciate it.
Every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight.
For sure. But yeah, I just want to make sure, like, you know, we're not in a rush. We do this once a month, every third Thursday. We're going to continue to do that until further notice. But definitely, yeah. So by August, there will definitely have to be a change made. It may be before that, or maybe after that, or whatever.
Yeah.
But we rocking with y'all throughout the 2023 Gregorian calendar year. So just stay tuned. That's all. That's all. And we're still gonna bring it either way. You know what I mean? On any place, any platform, anytime. You know what I mean? Anytime. 11/11. Facts. You know.
Give thanks, Moore. Give thanks to all the Moors out there, all the Moors in the chat, all the Moors that's gonna listen to this. Peace and love, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and honors to all the mothers, especially the MHHS mothers and all the other mothers out there, Khalifa Media, and all the other mothers putting in work for the nation. Honors to you.
Facts, likewise. And again, you know what I mean? We definitely gonna chop it, and it is gonna be what it's gonna be. But where things are at now, man, it's only the best that could come from us at this point.
Yeah, straight.
You know what I mean? Like, only the best that come from us, and that's what's gonna happen. But yeah, more. I'm just thankful, bro. We got so many sessions. We connected with different people, and you know what I mean? Even with them trying to slow down movements and all of that, just remember, they can't stop this. You know what I mean? We have a collective body of work that expands almost a decade, bro. You know what I mean? And so that'll forever mean something to me, you know? Forever, ever. Like, you know what I mean? And whatever platform is on, just knowing the origins and how we just started doing this and linking and the organic chemistry of it, I just appreciate it, man. Like, I really do. And I gotta say this while we here, like, on the 9th year. Like, we started it March 14th, 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah, March 14th, 2013. And we are, what is it, March 16th, 2023?
Yeah.
Bro, you know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? God sent across the belly. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so, yeah, bro. Shout out to MHHS, Eyes Wide Open, Sons of Allah, Harvey Bay Publications, Canaanland Moors, honorable mention, Khalifa Society, all the Moors in tune, all the Moors all together, man. Who's serious, you know? And so, yeah, bro, I just wanted to say that. And with that, I mean, we can spin out. We'll be back next month. But also, again, what time is the live this Saturday? The one,
Saturday,
you know, in lieu of being in.
Yeah, somewhere between 12 and 4. Somewhere between 12 and 4. I don't have a firm time yet, but somewhere around there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Alright. So yeah, definitely. We'll be in tune.
Yeah, for sure.
For that being what it is, we're gonna spin out on the night.
Islam.
Appreciate you, boys. Appreciate you all.
Peace,
Islam.
Islam.
Peace, boy. Indeed.
Open my wings to a new day, spread my lungs, get laid, jump in the whip, stash the guns, switch the key, shifted the deed and flee before anything, get the daily dose of choke. We got the benzo, flooded with smoke on the float, my eyes burning from the dope, killing my throat, need my feet back to safe. lumbar support on the belt, doing 90 or more, debating on the latest rhyme wars. Units don't count, but your rap page add up the large amount. Get my drills putting up a nigga's skills asleep. Catch tails off an infamous beat. Swing the trees on one hand, Huey blowing on the ooey, so we can't have the medicine canoeing. They go to boys to the right, no days and nights like that. Hey yo, son, hold that down. They turn it around. Dirty as fuck, thugs, drugs, and guns. D's and fatigue. TNT hopping out of MPVs. The tribes all fuck out of me. Got rubber blocks pointed at me. Hey yo, twin, had us lay down. Hold it round, hold it down. We got to. Black eye heads was going down. It wasn't nothing held up that bitch you got. With the book, man. Let me speak to my attorney. I know the book ain't no try to slow me. I began knocked to 12 and my mom tried to show me, but all I told me, they getting more shit in your feet. What up? You my code D, we both get knocked. What you did with the half of the dream right in my side. Y'all hope you fucking stick for a violent stash spot. Cause you know I get down. Y'all ready to bounce. Do the 100-yard dash, but said ass. If my other half was alive, we would've got killed. Cause some would've went for their guns and got ill. Plus I got cracks on me. They about to track on me. Looked at them. She gave them back to me. I could have swore they was taking a thing. To the lady in the car said that when I found sections up. Told me I could keep this drug. They didn't give a fuck. They was only looking for guns. And you don't gotta tell us twice. We hopped in the car, split off. On our way uptown for more of that bomb. He lit the tree back up. Got off the Triborough, head to Henry Hut. Fuck it, let's fly through the bucket. Pull the windows down, flipping Miss Mall bumping. Get to my little heavy crowd jumping. Took a walk through the ball frame, didn't even